Hello, everyone. Welcome you all to the session here. And thank you so much for actually joining us here today. This is literally Saturday afternoon, but thank you so much for joining us here. This session is professional development number 3, Big Data's potential to transform the hospitality industry. Literally second from the last session of the whole conference. And thank you so much for actually still staying here with us. My name is Saehya Ann. I am an associate professor and department chair here in the Department of Hospitality, Recreation, and Tourism at California State University, Spain. And I'm the current WFCHRIE president. This session, we have a great session planned. For the first 5 minutes, I'm going to introduce our great speakers. And then the next 30 to 35 minutes, our speakers, it's all on yours. The next 10 minutes, Q&A. Next 10 minutes, we have our Jennifer, who's going to give you all the information about UC Berkeley extensions program and certification programs. So, excuse me. Before I introduce our speakers, I just want to mention this really briefly to you all, how I actually planned this session. We have to go back to last year. Me and my husband were sitting in the living room and we're talking about the trendy topic in the hospitality and tourism industry. Of course, we did agree that big data and then AI are the 2 hot topics in the field. And second thing that we both agreed on is none of us know anything about it. So we're like, okay, let's do something for it. We did a little bit of research and we found out this awesome UC Berkeley's extension certification program. And then we learned, we took it and now we're certified. So that's how we actually, have this session here at the WFCHRIE. Right away, I was like, we need this session at the WFCHRIE conference. Now we have our 2 awesome speakers here. Bruce Lam helps people and organizations recognize patterns and realize possibilities. He has experience in operations strategy, technical leadership, and technical personal development programs for startups and Fortune 500 corporations. He has over 12 years of progressively responsible technical leadership and data science experience across a diverse range of industries and technical capacities. As a learning facilitator, he is passionate about serving the academic community through coaching, mentoring, training, and teaching. He is currently pursuing a master in data science at UC Berkeley, builds, repairs bicycles as a side hustle, and is a grateful father of 2 young boys. Mr. Bruce Lam, he's the head learning facilitator at UC Berkeley Executive Education. What a great bio, that he provided with me. Welcome, Bruce. Now I have a second speaker, Josh Nichols. First time to meet with Josh, but nice to meet you here. Josh is a cybersecurity engineer and Master of Information Cybersecurity student at UC Berkeley. Josh spent most of his early career working in high-end hospitality and ended his culinary career at a Forbes 5-star resort in Point, Vermont. After transitioning into information technology and cybersecurity, Josh has used his skills to provide organizations, nonprofit, and small businesses the tools and policies necessary to keep their businesses secure and productive. Welcome, Josh. And we have here Jennifer Arvai. She's a Director of Customer Experience Marketing at Berkeley Executive Education. Jennifer, you're welcome too. Now let me share my screen, and it's all yours, Bruce and Josh.
Saehya, thank you so much for that warm, wonderful welcome. We are so excited and privileged, feel so privileged to be here today to present to you. And just if any of Saehya's students are in this call, just want to let you know that your professor is one of the most innovative, hardest working, impressive participants that we had in our program. So it was a privilege to serve you in that program, Saehya. Yeah, and it's my huge privilege to welcome my partners here, Josh and Jen. Thanks for joining me on this Saturday. And let's talk about how we could use big data to transform the hospitality industry. Have some fun while we're at it, and have some key takeaways so that when somebody says artificial intelligence or machine learning, you can say, I know what that is. All right, so let's start with this. What do Netflix, you all know what Netflix is, right? Amazon and Expedia have in common? All right, let's look at some data. So this is Netflix, and their ranking in the Fortune, I think this is in Fortune magazine at least. I don't know if it's 500 or, yeah, 500. So they're ever since around 2014, they've really been shooting up their ranks, right? Here's Amazon, and here's Expedia, right? So what this tells me is that all three of these organizations are striving to deliver personalized experiences and recommendations to engage, serve, and provide value to their customers, and hopefully delight them too. How do they do this? So you may or may not know that Netflix is big on data. They have content recommendation algorithms. They actually change the display tiles of their shows and their movies to kind of fine tune and understand which ones you would like to see better and which ones kind of speak to you more. They have machine translation because they have content across the world and many, many different languages now, right? They estimate the word of mouth effect. So if there's a really great show on, they try to figure out how much, me telling Josh, me telling Jen, me telling Saehya is going to affect viewership of that particular program. And they also have things like fraud detection, who's sharing accounts and stuff, right? We don't do that, right? I do that. That's why I laugh. And why Netflix is doing all of this is because they are trying to solve this paradox of choice. There was an article last year from a senior manager of Netflix, believed that they had so much content at this point that viewers, subscribers would actually have a hard time finding something to enjoy and watch without these recommendation algorithms making suggestions. Now, how you feel about that? I don't know. But what's the result of that? The result of that is, on Saturday night after this conference, this is going to be me watching Netflix. I need to stop. It's what I would whisper to myself as I click next episode, right? Maybe have some macaroons there, Josh. Amazon is very much in the same space. They're using Alexa to do voice recognition and help you. Hopefully I didn't set up all of your Alexa devices right now. I'm sorry if I did. Help you find and buy what you want to. They have machine and computer vision, right? They're experimenting with drones and delivery packaging. They do a lot of text comprehension. When you write your reviews on there, they're taking those reviews in and understanding what's positive, what's negative, how can we improve? And so what is the effect to the customer of all of this technology? It's this phenomenon spreading across America, across the world, called primnesia. Primnesia occurs when you order so much Amazon Prime that you don't know what's in that box. And last but not least, in the hospitality industry, Expedia is a really big player. And they are using a lot of machine learning and artificial intelligence. They own a lot of other companies like carrentals.com, and they're using your data to try to serve you the best prices that they can for your particular adventure or vacation. They're taking your social media data, your frequent flyer mileage data, your membership data that you have with Expedia, your flight information, if you give it to them, and aggregating everything to try to understand how best to serve you, how best to show you the experience and the package that you'll enjoy. And the effect of that is the face of a happy Expedia customer. Right now, how are they doing all this? We just looked at a little data map of how Expedia is attempting to aggregate all this information. Well, we live in an age where every single minute, there are 932 smart audio devices shipped, right? Alexas and Googles and Siris. There are 695,000 stories shared on Instagram every minute. 200,000 people tweeting every minute. How much are they tweeting? Several times, right? It's rapidly cascades and grows. And companies are trying to grok and understand this information, say, hey, what are our customers trying to tell us? What should we do better? How can we better serve you? And that's where we get into the world of big data. We have too much data that we just saw. It's coming super fast, hundreds of thousands every minute. There are too many different types. We've got images on Instagram. We have video on YouTube. We have text on Twitter. We have numbers coming from platforms, subscriber count, viewer count, and we don't know what's real and what's fake, right? What's fake news, what's real news. And these are the challenges with big data. If you were to ask somebody to define big data, they would try to explain it in this fashion. There's no Webster's dictionary definition as of yet per se. And so what we'd like to prepare you for is this discussion when folks are talking about big data, machine learning, artificial intelligence. How does that really relate to the hospitality industry? And how do you articulate that? All right, let's start with this analogy that's very much food-based. We've got these raw ingredients at this bottom layer, that's the big data. In the middle layer here, we have these appliances that help us transform things. And when I say artificial intelligence, I want the first word to come to your mind to be automation. And the second word to be spam, and you'll see why. Okay, so the analogy, big data is the raw ingredient, okay? Just like you bring in raw ingredients to your restaurant, you have to slice and dice and prepare. There's cuts that you can't use, right? There's skins and gristles and fats. You can get clever and use them, and sometimes it's just not worth the effort. So you prepare the data, right? And then you do your mise en place. For those of you who are chefs or in the culinary discipline, you know what this means. You want to prepare everything so that it's ready to go, so that you know your quantities and so you can be quick. And this is where we are in a gray space in terms of big data, data science, data analytics. There's this layer between big data and machine learning called analytics. And analytics is really the discipline of chopping, slicing, dicing, and visualizing the data before you input it into the machine learning phase of the process. Now, machine learning, this is an analogy that I really love, and I borrowed it from Cassie Korsakoff, who is the chief decision scientist at Google right now. So it's not my own. When you say machine learning, think of a microwave. A microwave is a device where we take these kind of raw prepared mise en place ingredients, you put them in the machine, you push the buttons, and then something comes out, the food comes out, and it's at a hotter temperature. It's in a more usable processed form, right? How many people on this earth really understand, though, how a microwave works, right? It's a box, you put the thing in, you push the button, and it comes out. Well, that's machine learning. It's a bit of a black box. It's very hard to comprehend sometimes what's going on inside that box. But you put your raw material in, you process it using the algorithms, and it comes out in a more usable state, or a state that will help you make decisions and give you insights. All right, great. So what? What's the big deal? The big deal is that if you can automate the ingestion and preparation of the raw ingredients, and then the processing through your automated, slicers and dicers, coffee machines, microwaves, and other heating elements, then you have this system in place where your products are consistent, where your products are, where the tasks being performed by the automated machines and robots are being done better than maybe humans can do them. The slices are more precise. The ingredients are prepared in a way that's more kind of interesting to consume. And that frees up the human capacity, the capacity of the chefs and the restaurateurs to do what they're good at. So the concept here is segregating, letting machines do what machines do better, and letting the restaurateurs and the humans, the creatives, do what the creatives do better. So now our chefs and our restaurateurs can spend their time at the markets in the morning, sourcing the freshest ingredients, dreaming up the next creations, the next menus that are going to delight their customers. And we let the machines do the other stuff that they're actually better at doing. And if we combine this together, we fully automate the process from data ingestion to decision automation, decision support, decision making. Just to kind of break this out a little bit in a little bit more technical aspect, in this big data layer, we can do descriptive analytics or answer the question of what happened. Then when we're into machine learning, we can start predicting what will happen, what might happen, and we require a little less human input. Then finally, when we're in the AI or prescriptive analytics layer, the machines help us decide what we should do or what is going to happen in the future to help you inform, automate, and support your decisions. And if you don't take anything else away from my section of this presentation, when someone says AI, think spam. And I don't necessarily mean the luncheon meat, although I love spam. My wife just made some fabulous musubi, and my boys and I just ate it all up. What I mean by spam are those junk emails that you get. And this rather complex diagram is a way of summarizing everything that we just talked about. You get some random spam email that's coming in. Maybe it's spam, maybe it's not. Inside this filter, you see machines are taking apart the words. They're removing words that might not have a lot of value to them. They're running algorithms to decide whether it's spam or it's legitimate. Or in the data science world, we call it spam or ham. And with that, this would be a great point to segue to my partner here, Josh, who's going to talk about other cybersecurity implications in this world of big data. Josh, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Bruce. I wouldn't be the security guy if I didn't bring to the table some cautionary tales. So I want to discuss an application of big data, and particularly in the marketing space, that many people find troublesome. So imagine a scenario where you are getting lunch with your mom, and she's telling you about a great dress that she bought, and she bought it on Amazon, and she's actually just wearing it to lunch with you, and it looks great. And then you go back home and you look at your phone and you start seeing advertisements for that very dress. This is a very common scenario, and most people assume that their phone is listening to them. This is not true, and I understand why people would think that. Typically, how these sort of marketing transactions happen is that your phone will keep track of the devices that that are nearby, and people that are in your contacts list, and will send you advertisements for things that they recently purchased. This is an example of big data being used in a way that subverts what someone sees as their privacy. I'd like to tell you about a different way that you can use the data that you can get from your customers. I worked at a Forbes 5-star resort called Twin Farms in Vermont. It's in this small town called Barnard. It's this really wonderful, all-inclusive resort. When you go to Twin Farms and you call in and you make a reservation, they ask you for all the foods that you just don't like. Me, I don't like beets, so I put that on the list. And when you arrive, they bring you a nice glass of champagne. They say hello. Everyone on the staff knows your name. They know how to address you. And then you sit down for dinner, and there's no menu. You were brought 7 courses. Each one, you have no idea what's coming out, except that you get a glass of wine to pair with your meal. And each course is designed around that data that you gave the registration ahead of time. So there's not a single dish, not a single element of those dishes that's served to you that's food that you don't like. So when you collect this data from your customers and from your data brokers, I want you to think about how you can use that data in a way to surprise and delight your customers or future customers, instead of making them feel kind of creeped out. Think of ways that they have given you willingly the data that's available to them, and use that to provide them with exceptional experiences. And the next cautionary tale that I want to share with you is a scenario that many of you here, I'm sure, has seen, where you go to a restaurant and you look at the table and there's a QR code that you're supposed to scan to order your food. You scan this QR code, it brings you to a menu, you pick out your food, and you put in your credit card, and you wait, and you wait, and you wait. Now, I want you to think, how did you know that that QR code was actually verified from that restaurant? Could an attacker come and put a sticker on top of that sticker and make a fake website to harvest your credit card? This is a very easy scenario that we've seen take place at a small scale, and I think that it's going to continue to grow. And it's something that you have to think about when technology moves a little bit faster than we were ready for. The reason that we're using QR codes in our restaurants is not out of convenience, it was out of necessity from the pandemic. Our hand was forced, and we're moving fast without considering the implications of the decisions that we've made. I challenge you to think about scenarios in which you're using technology in your organizations and businesses, and do some threat modeling and understand the purpose of the technology that you're implementing and how that may be subverted. And think about, in this scenario I illustrated, your guest who ordered food off of this malicious website, you're likely going to compensate their meal for their loss, so you don't lose them as a customer, even though it's not your fault at all. So think about the losses that your organization will take from these kind of subversive activity, and what you can do to prevent that. And with that, I want to pass it off to Jennifer. Thank you.
Excellent. Wow. I got a little scared for a moment about how easy that could be. And that was, it's good to have your eyes kind of knocked open about everything. And I wanted to encourage you all to continue having those wow moments in your kind of learning journeys that are going on in a very disruptive, fast-paced, changing world that we live in. So, you know, we want to help support you to gain the skills that you need to face that and to go deeper. So, as conference attendees today, we are open to extending a 15% discount to you on some of our programs that we have available to help you get more curious and help you be more prepared about what is going on and how you can become an expert or just deepen your understanding. So my email is right there. Please feel free to reach out to me directly for any questions that you have. Again, if you're just curious or if you wanted to apply a discount, I will be your main point of contact to help guide you from there. If you go to the next slide here, just to give you a little bit of background of some of the participants that are taking our programs, we offer global programs for our executives here at Berkeley Executive Education. And the programs that we offer are both online or in person. You can kind of choose what learning journey works best for you. They are executives from around the world with usually between 8 to 20 years of work experience. So not only do you get valuable learning from the professors in the programs, but also from the peers that are taking the courses along with you. And upon completion of each course, you'll receive a digital certificate, which is a great way to signal to your network that you have taken on these challenges and these new learnings and have achieved this goal. If you go to the next slide here, these are some of the online programs that may be of interest to you. If you wanted to have more time with Bruce, he is the head learning facilitator in our program, and he can take you there on that experience. The online programs that you see here are mainly, 2-month-long journeys, more asynchronous, where you're doing assignments and being able to apply what you're learning right away to the challenges that you're facing in your industry, which is a great way to explore and see how you can make an impact right away. We do have in-person programs available too. If you go ahead to the next slide. So if you wanted to come to the Berkeley Haas campus, we'd love to have you. These are some of the programs that I picked out that I think really complement the learnings that were covered today by Bruce and Josh. But there's a whole portfolio of programs available if you wanted to learn more about leading teams or bolster your knowledge of finance. Whatever areas you want to address, there's something in the portfolio that is there to help. So that's our our web address there. If you wanted to explore and get curious, if you go ahead to the next slide, we'll go ahead and have my email there for you. Again, I'll put it in the chat for you too, so you could just copy and paste it. But please do arm yourself and be ready with the data that you need to know your customers better, know the industry better, and do right by yourself and your customers. And with that, I think we're going to move on to a Q&A for everybody. Is that right?
Perfect. Thank you all. Yeah. please, all the participants, please feel free to, give us all the questions in the chat, or you can use the Q&A function here. You see the below, and then you should be able to find it out right there. While we're waiting, others' comments and questions, let me ask you this question to Josh and Bruce. Josh, maybe it's more likely the question for you because you have the hospitality experience, right? So while I was taking the certification course at UC Berkeley too, I was thinking, great examples like Netflix, right? And Expedia is really good. Could you please tell us more detailed information how hospitality organizations are using the big data, like maybe Expedia, right? Great example, but also because the thing that I could think about is hotels do have customer profile, right? Once they join as a member. To me, that's a big data, right? They accumulate for a long time. So how to use it, or any examples that you can actually give us, our hospitality and tourism people here.
Yeah, I think that the larger hotel chains and like the Marriotts and et cetera do collect a lot of information on their guests. Of course, they have information like when they stayed, and the travel information that they receive. And they also exchange with other data brokers to purchase related information. And this is what they can use to guide what sort of restaurants they want to add to their hotels, or what kind of menu items or other items to bring into their hotels, as well as ways that they can build partnerships with other businesses in the areas to strengthen communities of hospitality. I think that the big data use in hospitality is underutilized, though. I think that there's a lot of opportunities to collect this information, and like I was talking about earlier, to delight your guests and find ways to personalize their experiences. If you can know things like what kind of foods they like, what kind of restaurants they go to in your hotels, maybe you can leave little gift cards in their rooms, or things like that are based on things that they have expressed interest in. Bruce, do you have anything else to add?
I do, Josh. I love everything you said, and I just want to piggyback on you. So I did hear of there was a case study that we studied, which was, I believe it was at a Harrah's hotel chain, and they were able to launch a marketing campaign based on some internal data that they were seeing. They were seeing that in these kind of large suites, or maybe even kind of penthouse rooms, that there was a lot of activity. It was like way too frequent that people were coming in and out of the room. And of course, they weren't, they advertised that there's like a 4-person capacity, 4-person limit, but that just didn't make sense, the number of entries and exits from that room. So they figured out that it was spring breakers getting their friends together, pitching their money together to get a large room, right? And because they figured that out, they were able to launch a marketing campaign to people who were exhibiting those behaviors, saying, "Hey, come stay with us again. Hope you had a great time last time. Here's 5 free buffets. Here's kind of give them a package that's like atypical, right? It's not it's more customized, more personalized, in order to try to come back and have a good experience there, because we know what you're doing here and we're okay with it, type of thing."
Great. I heard a word underutilized in our field. So Josh, can you please maybe a little bit help us understand that when you say underutilized compared to other industry, you mean?
Yeah, I think that if you compare hospitality to tech, like social media companies or companies like Netflix, their data is so valuable that they don't even share it. They don't tell you how many views their top videos get, because that is critical information for them, and it's very, very valuable. And it guides what kind of content that they show to whom. And I think that there's a lot of opportunities in hospitality, just like the example Bruce was giving, of seeing niche markets that want to spend money on your properties. They just don't know opportunities are available. You're on mute.
I think you might be muted.
Thank you. And mute. Okay, so now, yeah, when I hear the word underutilized, I'm like, that's how I felt too, because maybe that's why I really didn't get examples, while I'm taking the certification courses and all that, maybe, or it was really hard for me to find it in even Google, like even type the keywords, nothing really coming up. It was. Thank you. I see many questions here. So as we're talking about the industry, why don't we talk about the industry questions first here? So Isabel is one of my students at CSC Spain, and she's asking us this great question. Yes, Bruce. So what's your opinion on Google Topics, Google's idea to move away from cookies? Please, Bruce, yeah.
Well, I think it's partly a response to, there's a lot of great questions about data collection here, and spurred on by the GDPR, the general data practice, which is, we're not supposed to store personally identifiable information, and so we have to come up with ways of knowing who you are and understanding you without knowing exactly who you are, and that phrase exactly that you use. I'm honestly, I'm not familiar with Google Topics. However, the concept of topic modeling is something that Google, it very much pioneered, and it's a technology that I actually use on a day-to-day basis to really understand, to do exactly that, to look at the behaviors of our customers and understand how we can target them and serve them better based on things that they're not exactly telling us, but just the way that they're behaving. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, and I think that to kind of build on that a little bit, there's a big importance on data privacy. And there's legislation in Europe, there's legislation in California, which means it's likely to come for the rest of the United States on data privacy and decoupling the individual from the data set. And it's an important thing to consider as you think about how to approach big data.
Yeah, 100%, Josh. Yeah, I was going to say, to me, that sounds like a response to the greater restrictions that are coming down the line for cookies. So you got to do something else if you can't do cookies anymore.
Thank you. So many questions are coming. So next, one of also our CSC Space students. Go, great. So they're asking you the question: how are big data collected during spontaneous moments and conversations? Do the staff members write down the information and log them in at the end of the day?
I love that question so much, and I'd like to share an experience that happened to me that actually really brought a smile to my face. So my latest dentist, I see the dentist every 4 to 6 months, right? And so I don't really remember that the name of the I try despite my efforts. I don't remember the name of the hygienist or the receptionist. But somehow I walk in there and they remember our last conversation. They remember that I'm going to school now. They remember that I just had a kid. How do they do that? It's magical, right? It's like when you walk into your neighborhood, your pub, and people, they know your name. How do they do that? And just like you're asking, which was a great statement, I found out later that they're actually just taking notes. like as they're talking to you throughout the day after the cleaning, they say, oh, he's about to go to school. They're having a kid. And my wife is a client of theirs too. So now when she comes, they can surprise her and say, oh, how are you doing with the new, of course, she's obviously, if she's having a kid, then she's obviously having a kid, but they can do other things like, how are you handling the new job, for example. So just little nuanced things like this. And I've seen a lot of restaurants starting to use, digital tablets to take orders and things like that. It wouldn't be too hard if you had a frequent customer with their information card to say, oh, they really didn't like the raw onions on this. So now you know.
Yeah, I think in my experience at Twin Farms, and this is kind of one of the Forbes hospitality standards, is that a customer or a guest should never have to ask something more than once. They ask it to one person, and that employee's job is to write that down or communicate that with the entire team. Twin Farms was fairly low tech. It was Vermont, like you'd expect, but they make extensive use of walkie-talkies and lots of notes and communications. That kind of experience is hard to scale up. You know, if you want to talk about natural language processing and applying some of these machine learning and AI technologies to that, it's difficult. And you do approach that sensitivity of private communications problem. Nobody wants their conversations listened to. There's a lot of work on that, and just approach it with caution. But I think that there's opportunity to delight your customers with it.
Great.
So, Josh, just to piggyback on you, one of those, I don't know how many of you, I love going to Disney, any Disney property, Disneyland, Disney World. And they do those little things where they give you the special button, if it's your birthday. So I forgot. I think we went there for our honeymoon, so we had these little pins, and when the employees see the pins, they just say congratulations, or they say hi there, princess, because they can see and just that little sign makes you feel so special when you're walking in the line, you're thinking on the ride, congratulations on your marriage or something like that, right? So.
Great, thanks. I have another question here. How would this interface with the source such as STR? Are there legal barriers or restriction? I'm pretty sure you two, are you familiar with STR? Smith Travel Research is our field. Yeah, they're collecting hotels data like ADR, RevPAR, and all the historical data. We can get the weekly data, monthly data. So are those data? So Dr. Vera Ward is asking you, are there any barriers or restrictions based on your experiences or examples that before? So she's, I think, asking, the current data, that STR has, how would this interface with the sources such as those existing data?
Saehya, I feel like I want you to answer this question, because I think you in your capstone project, you did mention aggregating data from different sources external to your organization. So
my project was actually about my university. So Dr. Vera Ward, if you can actually give us a little bit more detailed question, might be very helpful for us to answer. But we do have one more question from our webinar host, Dr. Christine Her here. And then her question is here. Is there a prerequisite analytics skill to get into a big data analysis? Do you want me to read the question again?
No, I was wondering if you could help me answer that, Saehya. I mean, I know that we went in our program, right, in business analytics, we did go quite into a bit of depth in some of the algorithms, with regression. I think the difficulty with that was not that people didn't have the skill, it's just that it's been so long since they had seen that type of material, that type of math, right? So, and I don't know if you can speak to this. I do my very best to make sure that because it's been so rusty that we approach it in a very piecemeal way that maybe you'll learn it better than you've ever learned it before. That's our approach. So I guess the answer is no to me. And if you're worried about that, let's have a chat.
Yeah. No,
go ahead.
I think the prerequisite is an open mind and a willingness to learn and put in the hard work. In the Masters in Information Cybersecurity program, the first class we had to take is cryptography, where we talk about advanced encryption algorithms like RSA, and we had to do proofs on how to prove that they work. And I haven't taken a math class in 12 years. But I did it because I opened my mind and I worked hard. And I think that's true of data science, and I think that's true of cybersecurity. If it's something that you are interested in and fascinated by, you will work hard and you can accomplish it.
I'll just add to it, for the programs that we are offering, data science, our data science program is probably the one that will get most into regression modeling and things of that nature. So familiarity with it is helpful for you, but it's not a formal prerequisite. So it's kind of a safe learning space to dip your toe in, know what you don't know, and get some exposure to that if that was a pathway that you wanted to explore.
And I think I can help a little bit to answer the question from Kristen about prerequisite analytics skill. I mean, I only took, Bruce, was it 8 weeks certification?
It's 8 weeks.
Yeah.
8 weeks.
Well, I was taking the 8 weeks courses. We did, touch descriptive data and also linear regression, as the algorithm, how to create the algorithm or find out algorithm by using regressions and all that. So a lot of our attendee here are the faculty member who already, took the statistics courses, in their master's degree and then PhD degree. So in that 8 weeks course, I did not have any problem, right? But maybe my question to you, Bruce, because you're in that data science master course here. So is it more, do they require more? Because I remember that we touched, I forgot the software name that we used in the certification course, Bruce. What was it? Was it?
We used quite a bit of Python.
Python, yes.
Yeah.
That part, never used it before, but it was pretty clear. I mean, because I already used several other software program before, like AMOS or M+ or SPSS. So it looks very similar on the screen, but definitely you got to learn how to use all those. But other than those statistics method that we touch in the 8-week certification course, Bruce and Josh, are you guys using more prerequisite research skills or research statistics method in your master's program?
For me, the answer is yes. If you wanted to do the master's in data science, I would say that there are prerequisites in differential equations, linear algebra, and those types of things. And because when you're talking about huge data sets, being able to compress that down becomes pretty critical. And sorry, can I double back? I didn't mean to kind of skirt the question from Vita about the external data sources. I just misremembered. I thought that there was a topic that we talked about, but so it's a very, very frequent common question, and the answer is yes. If your data source externally has some sort of an API and you could log into it, you can pull that data, aggregate that, and combine it with your own data, and then come up with new insights on your customer groups. Lots of our participants come up with that use case.
And I think that the other part of the question was if there's any legal or legislative concerns. And to kind of give an elevator pitch or hand-wavy explanation of the two primary privacy laws, which is the GDPR and the California law, which is slipping my mind with its name right now. The California law is more focused around data loss. So when you have a breach, depending on what's in that data can determine the amount of fines or the repercussions of your organization would face. And in the GDPR, it's strictly on what data you're allowed to collect and giving your participants the ability to what they call the right to be forgotten. So in both scenarios, it's probably best to approach the GDPR solution, especially because you're probably working with international organizations anyways, and because that helps you remove that data that if you were to be breached, and at the rate that data breaches happen right now, you will be, you're not going to lose the kind of information that will hurt your customers and hurt your banks.
Great, thank you. I have one more question to you all. This is Josh. I wanted to ask you this question. Since you have the hospitality background early in your early career, and then now you're in data, science and also this cybersecurity field. How do you think your experience in hospitality was helpful for you to become successful in your current field right now? Or what are the factors that were really helpful for you to work better here in your field? Or maybe opposite? Maybe that didn't work. Opposite?
No, there's a ton. Most of my hospitality career was as a line cook. So I can deal with stress better than most of my peers. I was a short order breakfast cook, all the way through a fine dining dinner cook, and a bartender. I can deal with the worst of stress. But it also taught me how to communicate with people of all different types. At Twin Farms, the average cost of the one night stay was around $2,000 to $3,000 a night. So the people that would come there were really high level executives out of Boston and New York. And I learned how to speak to executives in a way that I'd never been able to before. And that's really been very useful in my cybersecurity career when I'm going to the table and saying, I need this amount of money to increase my budget and pay for these initiatives.
Josh, sorry. So Josh, I love that story so much, and that brings to mind one of the mantras that we have in our program, that the data enables the story, but the story is what people will remember. So your ability to articulate and connect with people is just as important as your ability to source and understand and analyze the data.
Great. So I got another question here. Do you have any suggestion or idea for the undergraduate big data analysis course? Or how about we extend it to both undergraduate big data analysis course and graduate big data analysis course?
So is the question, do we know of any courses that are good to take at an undergraduate level, or?
No, this question is from the faculty members, so
Okay.
they want you to suggest them any ideas.
Oh, ideas
Yeah.
for, oh, okay. Interesting. That's a good one. That's a great question there. Yeah, I would say that a survey course would be great, right? A survey course about, how do you do prediction? How do you do clustering and segmentation, personality identification? Just kind of touch on the surface of all these techniques, NLP, natural language processing, which Josh was talking about. Just touch on them and look at the broad variety of technologies in this space and see, hey, I could use NLP to help understand the complaints of my customers better, to make those recommendations to our staff to improve X, Y, and Z. So, I would say that a survey course would be a great place to start.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, there's a huge need for data science and cybersecurity. If you can be proficient in both of those topics, Microsoft will pay a lot of money to hire you. And the kinds of topics that big data can really benefit cybersecurity is looking at the massive amounts of security detections and alerts that come from all of our tools and products, and deciding which of those are true positives or false positives, how to action them, and then going into a topic that we call SOAR, which is security, operations, automation, and response, which is where you take that data and you don't even show it to an analyst, you just action on it. I think that would make for a wonderful course that would really benefit your students.
Josh, could you please maybe suggest some of the books, Bruce, you too, if you can provide us some of the list, because I remember, sorry that I forget, I lost the list, but I got it from you while I was taking the certification course. Could you please provide us some of the list of the great books that we can maybe start to read, right? To learn more about the big data, AI, machine learning, maybe beginner course, for, also for advanced course. Maybe if we can have some of the books list, that would be great for us to start. And if we, thank you. Yeah, and I can just add a little bit of, because when we think about the big data courses, because I was also trying to develop the big data course for undergraduate students, because I mainly teach the courses for undergraduate students. And what I really learned is we already do a lot of customer behavior research, right, in our field. So that and algorithm, just perfect match. We try to find out the algorithm, and then we want to understand our customer behavior, buying behavior. That's that's what we, try to do. And that's why we, try to find out the algorithm. So using those information in the, undergraduate courses and making our students to understand the big data is really close to us, and it's literally reshaping our whole world. Very, approaching from that beginning would be really great for the undergraduate courses that I thought about after taking the certification course. So if I may add that on top of your answers.
Of course, I think that was brilliant. That's a brilliant statement.
Thanks. I think we have one more question here. Okay, they want to know your emails. Can someone please post in the chat? I think both Bruce and Josh provide us their LinkedIn information. I mean, Bruce was pretty quick after I messaged him via LinkedIn. So please use that information, please. And if you have any questions about the UC Berkeley certification programs, please contact Jennifer. It was a great opportunity for me to take the courses for 8 weeks, but literally I was able to have the much bigger picture of understanding the big data, AI, and machine learning at the time. So I think it's going to be really, really helpful for everyone.
We also touch on. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. We also touch on that very important concept, topics of like Josh said, data privacy and also ethics. How do we use ethics, and what are the implications of having this data and actioning on it?
Great, thank you. I think I see one more question. What is the cost for the course? Jennifer.
It's usually around $2,600, but there's sometimes early enrollment deals that you can offer. And again, you will have your 15% discount if you send me an email. So all you have to do is reach out to me and I can help give you a code and invoice and take you from there.
And then you should be clear with this. This 15% is very special for our conference.
Absolutely. That's why you have to come through me. So make sure that you reach out to me directly and I can help guide you.
Me and my husband, we got only 10%, but Thank you.
Opened up doors for others.
Happy for everyone to get the more and more discount for the certification. Any other questions, comments? I think we're good here. But before we go and close the session, Bruce, Josh, I wish you can give us maybe last question to wrap up the session. 3 words that you can fully explain the field of big data, AI, machine learning. Can you give us 3 words? I know very short notice for you, but.
Well, I mean, I think I was attempting to do it in 1 word, which was, when you think of AI, you think of spam, right? Just think of spam, and there you go.
I feel like my expertise is more in cybersecurity, and I would have to resort to the classic CIA, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. That's keeping your data private. It's keeping your data accurate to what it is when you collected it, and making sure it's available when you need it. That's the kind of core tenet of what a cybersecurity professional is for.
Before we all go, I really want to thank you all, Bruce, Josh, Jennifer, for you joining us here on Saturday afternoon. Thank you so much. And of course, thank you so much for all of our attendees here for this session. Thank you so much for joining us here